Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking about Fruits Basket, episode 16, She Said Don't Step on Them, which is a bit of a weird title. I'm not super sure what it's supposed to mean, actually, now that I think about it. Given what happens to the episode, don't step on them. What would that mean? I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into this episode, shall we? So as I've been doing, I'm gonna just, instead of going like from the beginning to the end, gonna just kind of start with all of my good thoughts and then maybe end with a negative thought. I don't really have a negative thought for this episode. I thought it was pretty darn good. I do have one small one, but anyway, let's go ahead and get into all of my good thoughts. That's what the show should be called from now on. Good thoughts. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with the first thing that happens, even though we're not going top to bottom. We're going to go ahead and start with the first thing, and that is the pool bit. The scene at the pool was genuinely funny. Not only does it do a pretty decent job at setting up the whole plot or at least the beginning plot of the episode, because then we get into some flashback stuff, but the beginning plot of the pool, like getting Toru a new swimsuit because she's been using the old one from school, and now that they can wear their own, Toru's still using the school one, makes Uotani kind of upset. Uo's actually gets genuinely emotional about it, which is pretty much Uo to a T. And yeah, the pool bit was genuinely really funny, especially the fact that they were saying oh, how come the Yankee gets to swim with us? Don't they normally skip? Blah blah blah. I hate those girls. Those girls drive me insane. The girls from their class. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the fact that they thought they could get all I don't know, snooty with Uo in the first place was weird. When they're we should go say something. I'm like, yeah, you go ahead and say something to Uotani. You see what happens. And then immediately Hana shows up and she looks like the girl from The Grudge for a second. And they just swim away. I forget that bit. Plus Uo crying over the fact that Toru's swimsuit sucks. It was just a genuinely really funny way to open the episode. I thought it was really solid. And I'm pretty happy to say that the whole episode is Uotani-centric. We haven't had that yet. Now, Hana, of the two, I've noticed the show leans more towards Hana, since Hana has the whole waves thing, and it makes sense given that she can sense waves. And at first I thought it was a joke, but it's genuinely kind of true. She can read people really well. So of course Hana gets a little bit more spotlight, since her ability to read people comes in handy with the whole Soma background. But we don't really get much with Uotani, other than we know that she has a great affection for Toru and super respects Toru's mom. Now, in this episode, we finally get to crack into her backstory. We get to peer a little bit into her past, and it's genuinely pretty intense. But first, I also want to mention that the shopping scene was really funny too. This whole episode has this perfect balance between being really dark and dramatic when we get to the backstory, but it also can be really, really funny with the shopping scene, the pool scene, the ending scene. We'll get to that later. But yeah, the shopping scene was also pretty solid. I wanted to mention that as well. And yeah, I also like the logic behind choosing pink for Toru's new swimsuit, because it actually makes a lot of sense given her parents' background. Her mom always wore red, her dad always wore white. You mix them together, you get pink. And it shows just how well that Uo and Hana know each other, how well they know each other and how deep their bond goes. The fact that they know these little details, I can't remember Toru's mom's name right now. Dang it! How well Toru's mom, how they knew not only about Toru, that they knew about her parents, even though they never even met the dad. But they know that he always wore white. They know that Toru's mom always wore red. Little details that I would never know about a friend of mine. That's just how close these three are. That they know these little details into each other's lives, and I think that really makes their bond all the more impressive and sweet and charming. But now it's time to get into backstory. It's time for the zero issue, if you will, as we get into Uo's backstory, which is much darker than I had assumed it would be. Now, I knew that if we ever did see pieces of her backstory, it would be sort of obviously would have this Yankee sort of delinquent background to it. And it does, but anytime the show goes dark, it's still shocking, even 16 episodes in. Not because I'm shocked that it would go there, but just that Toru is so abundantly sweet and scenes with her in it are usually so kind that when something does arrive that shakes up the core, that like really kind of changes things and reminds you that the world isn't sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, it genuinely catches me off guard. And it's a welcome change though, because Uo's backstory should have been dark and sort of a little bit more kind of gritty and real, essentially. And real is the key word here, because Uo's backstory, I don't know, it's relatable in a weird way. Now, my parents were much closer to Toru's parents, right? Like, they were much more supportive and kind and sweet. But I did, and this may be a surprise for some folk, I did have a delinquent era to me in my high school years. From like grade 9 till about like the beginning of grade 12-ish. Maybe like beginning of grade 12, maybe the summer of grade 11, somewhere in there. I had sort of a delinquent phase. I didn't like, it's why some people mention like, you haven't seen blah blah blah, like you haven't seen this anime. I'm like, no, because I watched anime as a kid, but once I got to high school, I stopped watching anime because I wanted to be cool and fit in. So I ran with sort of a bad crowd. I don't want to call them bad people because they weren't. It's just they were up to stuff that I wasn't really into and probably shouldn't have been into. And, you know, you find a group of people and you fall in with them and you feel like that's who you are and there's no other way. Like, you can't become something else. That's what you're set in. And that's what I get from Uotani. It seems like she does have this delinquent side to her, but she's not quite as rough and tumble as the others, in the sense that she has good in her too. And I feel like with her backstory, I get a lot of her trying to be the image of the butterfly that she thinks she is, the crimson butterfly that she wants to be, which does come into play heavily once Toru's mom is introduced again. And it's again, like I said, it's relatable because I felt like that too, where you have to be like them. You have to do what they do. Even if you're starting to realize that's not you, you have to keep pretending like that is you because you don't fit in anywhere else. Like, to start over now would be insane. And I'm assuming Uotani's going to learn this. I learned this. And if you're in this position, you will learn this. That's a big load of nonsense. It's never too late to shift, and it's never too late to change. If you feel like you're in a bad way, you can always find new people, new friends. And it sucks leaving those people behind and leaving that life the only life maybe you've known, where you've always been a delinquent. But you can find something good and become a better person and become a civilized member of society. Or you can keep on saying, screw society, man. Whatever floats your boat, dude and dudettes. But the introduction of Toru's mom is particularly interesting to me because it really throws Uotani's, like, just everything that she thought she knew into chaos. And it's really where we start to see that Uo doesn't maybe belong as quite as well as she thinks. Like, the fact that she says, like, my life is at its best when I'm falling towards rock bottom. And it's like, oh, not only is that edgy as hell, but it's also super relatable. Like, that was me in high school. Except, like, for me, it was even more ridiculous because I had good parents. And I do think Uo's dad is trying, but obviously he's going to be driven to drink when his wife left him. And with their kid, by the way, screw that lady. But it's yeah, I don't know. Like, it really just, like, the fact that she sees the crimson butterfly, like this badass delinquent, this rock star in the underground world, become this doting mother, and she's like, no. Like, she just refuses. The idea of change is something she craves so much, but so heavily refuses to accept that it shakes her to her core. The idea that her idol was able to change when it's what she wants to do deep down, but won't admit it. And it really shakes her to her core, and I thought that was really, really well done. And that's where we end the friggin' episode. That's my only negative. That's my only bad thought, and quote-unquote, keep bad in big air quotes, because it's the fact that it just ended really abruptly. And I was like, what? No, don't end there. Because I was really into the episode, and the fact that it just ended, I was like, whoa, hey. And if that's my only negative, like I was saying in the Dr. Stone video, if I only have one negative, and it's something like that, that's a pretty dang good episode. And the episode even ends with a really funny post-credit scene with that trio, who I'm assuming it is going to be sort of a mirror for what happened in the past with Uo and Toru's mom. But they were really, really funny. I really liked them. And all of a sudden seeing Momiji was like, whoa! Like it was a real big surprise. But yeah, those are basically all my thoughts on this week's episode of Fruits Basket. I almost want to give it an A+, just because it was so well done, and we finally get a Uo-focused, an Uo-centric episode. I love this freaking character. I think she's one of my favorites in the show. Her and Hana are just great. So seeing an episode that focuses on her is really exciting. I hope next week we actually see the introduction of Hana into the trio, since it was mainly just focused on Uo and Toru. But yeah, I would like to see that maybe next week. But again, I'm kind of up for whatever. Fruits Basket always manages to surprise me. Even when I'm like, I would like to see this, they give me something else and it's just as great. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to give this episode a solid A, a very strong A. And that's going to do it for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed, then by all means hitting that like button and sharing the video around on the internet, that would be super rad of you. And if you're new here and you want to check out more from me, then by all means go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to join the good ones. And of course, before we go, I have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Dominic, Urza, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Omnigaramond, Opinionated Slime, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Tristan, and Veridon. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Every little bit helps, and we are slowly crawling our way into making something, this channel something that I can do full time, and I really freaking appreciate that. It's a slow crawl, and we're getting there, but I really appreciate it. It is genuinely really freaking cool of you guys. But with that said, everybody, we are going to wrap up today's video. So until our next meeting, you stay rad and don't scary.